and play on 2nd and 10. That's his youth right there.
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
Today I'll be reacting to week 2 of the 2025 college football season. So Oklahoma is for sure a lot better than last season. Of course, we don't know yet if Michigan's good or not, but Oklahoma to me looks like they might be a contender in the SEC. John Mateer looks like the right quarterback for them. He played great last night, completing 21 of 34 passes, which is 61.8% and threw for 270 yards and a touchdown pass, averaging 7.9 yards per throw. And the only mistake he made was that one interception early in the game. And he did really well as a runner too, running 19 times for 74 yards and 2 touchdowns.
मैटर लगातार दौड़ता हुआ मुक्त हो जाता है। मैटर ने ओक्लाहोमा को टचडाउन किया।
And it looks like Deion Burks is one of the best receivers in the SEC. He played great with 7 catches for 101 yards and a touchdown. And Jaron Kainick looks like he could be a really good tight end for Oklahoma this season. I wasn't even thinking about him before yesterday, but he had yesterday 5 catches for 69 yards. I didn't think Oklahoma was going to have a good tight end this year, and their defense looks to be just as good as last year, and maybe even better. Because Michigan really only got 10 points offensively, because one of those 2 field goals, they got the ball in field goal range. And Oklahoma's offense being in existence again, I think, is going to make their defense even better. Because even though 24 points wasn't a lot, Michigan, I'm pretty sure at least has a good defense. And against Michigan last year, Oklahoma probably wouldn't have scored more than 10 points, and they were able to move the ball well. So last year, their defense that had to be on the field so much because their offense couldn't even move the ball. But this year, they'll be able to stay more rested, and I don't think they'll be giving as much points up as last season. And Mateer is a great running quarterback, and his legs are going to be a big part of the Oklahoma offense for the rest of this season. But one concern I do have about Oklahoma after watching this game is they still haven't been able to get any of their running backs going. And this game was the first time that their offensive line was actually tested. And the pass protection looks a whole lot better from what it was a year ago, but the run blocking is still an issue. And even though Michigan has got a better defensive line than most teams that Oklahoma will play this season, if they're going to win a national championship, you've really got to at least have a good running back. And Oklahoma running their quarterback 19 times a game. I don't think is going to be a good thing because that's going to greatly increase the chance of him getting hurt. And Michigan, I don't see them as a national title contender, but they still, to me, I think have a good chance, even though they lost this one by 11 points of getting to the Big Ten championship game. Bryce Underwood, even though he was terrible in this game, if you expected him in his second ever college start as a true freshman to go into Norman, Oklahoma, against a really good Brent Venables defense and throw for 300 yards are crazy. I expected him to struggle in this game, and I still think he's going to be a good quarterback for Michigan, maybe even this season. I think he'll be playing a lot better at the end of the season when they play Ohio State than he was in week 2. But Michigan hardly had any offense yesterday except for that 75-yard touchdown run by Justice Haynes. As an Ole Miss fan, it was really nice seeing them get revenge over Kentucky, even though it was a close game and Kentucky's expected to be one of the SEC's worst teams. This game is always close, and it couldn't have been a much worse start for Ole Miss. After watching that first quarter, I was thinking, here we go again, because Simmons threw 2 interceptions, and the offensive line was terrible, and they had no run game. But then after the first quarter, Simmons started to play much better, and so did the offensive line, and they were able to get the run game going. Of course, I don't know if Kentucky's any good or not yet, but Stoops teams that usually do have a very solid defense. So being able to score 30 points on them, I'd say, is pretty good.
Receivers moving closer to the ball. Wallace, the motion man, design run for Simmons, trying to turn the corner. Touchdown!
I was pleased that they were able to get the run game going as well as they were, because that's something that they were missing last season. And Austin Simmons, even though he did get hurt close to the end of the game, Lane Kiffin said after the game that he could have came back in. So that's good news. But I didn't see enough out of Ole Miss yesterday for me to say that I think they're a better team than last season. Because overall their defense, I think, is clearly worse than it was last year. So they really only gave up 20 points offensively, because one of those Kentucky field goals, Kentucky got the ball because of a turnover in field goal range and couldn't even move the ball. So that's not bad. But the defensive line is clearly taking a big step back. They did give up a lot of rushing yards. The secondary played pretty well, but Zach Calzada seems to be a pretty terrible quarterback. But Ole Miss only did give up one deep ball. And if you're a Kentucky fan, I did see a few reasons to be optimistic about the season. Because at Kentucky under Stoops had become used to having a really good offensive line, and last year they didn't have that. Their line gave up 32 sacks, and they didn't have a very good run game. But I thought Kentucky's offensive line played well in this game against the defensive line of Ole Miss that does still have quite a bit of talent, just not near what they had last year. And Kentucky had a pretty good run game in this game. So Kentucky might be better than last season. So Florida got upset by South Florida by a score of 18-16 on a last second field goal. So Florida's trash, and DJ Lagway is trash. Florida is overrated like I thought they were. All the magazines were high on Florida and thought that DJ Lagway was a Heisman candidate. Lagway, like I thought, is very overrated. He's even more overrated, I think, than I thought he was. Florida was ranked going into this game, which I thought was ridiculous. But even if Lagway was the best quarterback in the country, Florida still wouldn't make it to the college football playoff, because to do that, you do have to have at least a decent coaching staff. And Florida has got one of the worst coaches to ever put on a headset. Sunbelt Napier. Florida's not going to matter in college football again until they finally hire a good coach. I've wondered for a while why they won't hire a good coach because since Urban Meyer left them, they've fired three coaches. They keep hiring these duds. They fired three coaches in a row, and it's about to be four in a row. Because Florida has, I think, the second most high school talent in the country, so it wouldn't be hard for them to recruit there. So you would think that they would care enough about football to hire a good football coach. But for this season, Florida's going to have it rough because next week they've got on the road at LSU, which is a loss, and then after that, on the road at Miami, another loss, and then Texas, another loss, and on the road at Texas A&M, another loss, and then Mississippi State, after what they did last night, I'd say that's a 50-50 game, and then Georgia, that'll be a loss, and on the road at Kentucky, I'd say that's 50-50, and then on the road at Ole Miss, that'll be a loss, and then Tennessee, I'd say that's 50-50 at best for Florida, and then Florida State, the way they've looked so far this season, Florida State would destroy Florida. South Florida, it looks like it might be the group of five team to make it to the college football playoff because in week one, they destroyed Boise State, who I thought would be the group of five team to make it to the college football playoff. And I think Athlon picked them to make the college football playoff. Now, of course, I know Florida is a group of five team themselves, just disguised as an SEC team. But South Florida looks to be a pretty good team for their level to me. Kansas State losing to Army was another upset, a huge upset. After Kansas State barely got the win last week over the FCS team. Because of how they looked against Iowa State, I thought that was a fluke, but now I don't think it was. Kansas State, I guess, isn't going to be very good this year, which is surprising because they have become the most consistent program in the Big 12 conference. But Kansas State now might be like Florida State from last year, who played in week zero, and even though they lost, they looked decent. But then after that was horrible and ended up finishing at 2-10. I watched the second half of the Iowa State game, and Iowa looks like their normal selves to me. They lost 16-13, but uh, they've got a really good defense again. It looks like, and looks like they've got good lines of scrimmage, but not much offense. It looks like bringing in Gronowski at quarterback. Hasn't fixed their passing problems. He threw for under 100 yards in this game because their wide receivers are terrible. I don't know of a team that's had worse wide receivers in the last decade than Iowa has. They've went so long without even having one decent wide receiver. And Illinois got an impressive win over Duke, 45 to 19. Now Duke, maybe I overrated them and they're just terrible, but still to blow them out, I'd say was pretty good. And Illinois has two tough opponents before the Ohio State game, USC and Indiana. And of course, it's not known yet how good either of those teams are because they've just played little teams. But if Illinois can win both of those and be undefeated going into the Ohio State game, that would be a huge game because Ohio State will almost certainly be undefeated in that game. And of course, Illinois will probably lose that game, but even if they do lose the Ohio State game, if they can win those two against the USC and Indiana, you would have to feel really good about their chances of going to the college football playoff. Mississippi State upset Arizona State. And Mississippi State, I will say, is for sure better than they were last year. But I still don't see very much of a chance that Mississippi State is actually a good team this year. And they may be a whole lot better than last year, even, but they were so bad last year that even if they're 6-6, that would be a huge improvement. I think either Arizona State is extremely overrated, uh, or they are a good team, and this is just going to turn out to be one of those fluke upset losses like Kentucky and Ole Miss was last year. But that will be it with this video. Please subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.